Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to Max's Football Playbook. Today I'll be going over a short video where I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 players in the 2026 NFL Draft using my NFL Draft Big Board, which will give you guys the scouting reports, skill grades, pro comparisons, and much more. By the way, I will link this big board in the description and comment section, so hopefully you guys will be able to access it. But without further ado, let's get into it. Also, one last thing. I'm going to leave my top 10 guys on the screen so you guys can read off this whole thing as I'm talking about the top 5. But as you can see here, my top 5 in order: Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs, Rueben Bain, Arvell Reese, and Sonny Styles. Then, of course, I have Delane, Lemon, McCoy, Ioane, Maui Noah, which represent the rest of the top 10. So let's start with Jeremiah Love. His name is underlined in a dark blue color. This represents that he's a true blue chip player. You can also see that Caleb Downs has this, and then Rueben Bain, Reese, and Sonny Styles have aqua. Aqua means they're a fringe blue chip talent, but they're not exactly a guy that I consider to be a true blue chip talent. However, I think they're better than a first round grade, but also obviously not as good as the blue chip, so that's why I kind of throw them in the middle. And since I'm not going to be talking about them, but these guys below are colored in green, that means they're first round grades. So now with Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, you can see his height, his arms, his age. My role for him is an elite workhorse running back, as of course I said he's the best player in this class, and I think he's really good. A pro comparison I gave him was to Christian McCaffrey run-wise, because I think he could be solid in the receiving game, but obviously I don't think he's going to be able to do as much as Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. And then as you look at these grades, you can see that I'm a little more tough. It's very hard for me to give A pluses. I don't think I gave an A plus to a single player because I like to be a little more strict on these grades. So for Jeremiah Love, I gave an A minus, which obviously says a lot given my grading system. B for ball carry, B minus pass pro, A ball security. I think he's very secure with holding onto the ball. And then his vision is a B. Sometimes he can get a little excited and try to bounce to the outside, which sometimes isn't there and kind of limits the amount of yards he gets, which is why his vision's a little bit lower. However, I still think he has very good vision for a running back. Overall, his team fits are the Titans, Cardinals, and Giants. The scouting report that I have on him is elite home run threat, speed, great agility, good receiver/contact balance, but he can still improve his vision and pass protection. But besides that, he's obviously an elite player and my number 1 player in the class. Next, we have Caleb Downs, who rounds out my blue chip players. Safety out of Ohio State. Here you can see the weight, the height, the arms, and the hand size. He's a young player. His role for me is an elite chest piece safety. I can see him as a box safety, but also he can play anywhere, which is why I have his pro comparison as Derwin James. For the athletic grade, I gave a B. I don't think he's a crazy athlete, but at the same time, he's definitely good enough. B plus man coverage and A zone coverage. To me, he's more of a box safety, but honestly, he has the potential to play any role. As you can see with all these grades, the A minus for the run defense and the B for the tackling, they're all overall a great makeup of a player. Team fits for him are the Giants, Commanders, Bengals, and maybe I'll mention the Saints, although I don't think they're going to draft him. His scouting report is he's a generational safety with elite IQ, has chest piece versatility as he can play in the box, and I can see him play anywhere for his all-around game. He's a physical run defender who has rare man coverage versus tight ends. He's a dynamic playmaker, but his size is a little bit of a limitation to him, and at times he can definitely be a little bit over-aggressive. Now with my number 3 player, starting the fringe blue chip players out of Miami, is edge rusher Rueben Bain. Here you can see his height, weight, arms, and hands, like I keep saying. He's also a young player, as are all of these guys in the top 5. They're all very young players. For Rueben Bain, I think he's a guy who has a higher floor, so I don't think he's going to be elite, but I definitely can see him be a superstar, and I think he can fit any role as he has a pretty all-around game. His pro comparison to me is Brandon Graham. Athletically, I'd give him a B minus, an A minus for pass rush, and an A minus for run defense. I know that the coverage grade is a D plus, but for edge rushers, I put in the coverage grade for guys more like Cassius Howell who are asked to do that. Of course, he's more of a bull rusher who's an actual true defensive end instead of like an outside linebacker type. So I think his coverage is a little bit more limited given his play style. So don't dig into that as too seriously. Then for the team fits, I'd love if the Jets can get him, but I don't think they're going to take him. So instead, I think the Chiefs, maybe the Bengals, the Saints, and the Titans are most likely teams that can draft them. For a scouting report, I put elite pass rush technique, explosive power, elite edge setter, big game production but smaller arms, lower tackling efficiency, and lacks top end speed and can struggle with gap discipline. Next at number 4, we have Ohio State edge rusher Arvell Reese. He's more of a hybrid as he did play middle linebacker for Ohio State, but he does project as a good edge with a ton of potential. He's more of a project player because of his hybrid ability. You kind of have to choose a specific role, and obviously he doesn't have much experience at edge like I just mentioned, so he will need some growth to grow those pass rush skills, as you will see on my scouting report. Here's his height, weight, and arms and hands. He's the youngest player of this top 5. I obviously already mentioned his potential. I think he has superstar potential, and I gave him a pro comparison to Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is a guy who can play the outside linebacker spot, the defensive end spot, and I think that versatility, if Arvell Reese is able to go to a good team that will develop him right, is going to hit. Athletically, Arvell Reese is really damn good. However, as you can see here by the skills, I have his pass rush and run defense a little lower, and this isn't necessarily anything to hate on him. It's more just to say that those skills aren't developed yet because he doesn't have much experience as an edge rusher. However, his potential is through the roof, which is why I have him up high, and his specific role is reflected with the A coverage, as of course he was a middle linebacker. Team fits for him are the Jets, Cardinals, Titans, and Giants. My scouting report says he's a hybrid linebacker, like I mentioned before, has elite closing burst, can move 300-pound offensive linemen, has big tackling radius, sideline to sideline movement, but he's a weaker player in terms of pass rush moves, lacks gap integrity, and sometimes doesn't have the best coverage awareness versus play action. Finally, rounding out the top 5 is another athletic freak, even crazier athletic numbers that he put up in the combine than Arvell Reese, is Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State. Here again, you can see his height, weight, arms, and hand size. He's 21 years old. Like I said before, he's an athletic freak linebacker. His pro comparison to me is Fred Warner, as I think if a team could really use his athletic potential and put it all together for a game, he could have a complete game as good as him. Of course, for the athletic grade, he has an A, which says a lot because if anyone else did these rankings, it would probably be an A+. I'm a little more strict on it. I gave him a B for the pass rush, a B- for the run D. His tackling to me is an A. He's a really, really good tackler. He's a very sure tackler. And of course, for middle linebackers, that's a very important role. Blitzing-wise, I don't think he's that good, but overall, given these rankings, I think he's a good overall player. Team fits for him are the Giants, Cowboys, and Commanders. Finally, the scouting report says he's a generational athlete, has elite click and close, is a great tackler, like you could see in my grades, is a really smart player, he's a good leader, and he's versatile. However, he definitely needs some more experience, specifically in coverage, as I don't think he got enough, and he still looks a little raw there. And sometimes he can be over-aggressive. But besides that, he's a really good player with a ton of potential. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching my top 5 player overview. I will be streaming later today at 7 Eastern time. But until then, see you guys.